वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह जुगो जुगो तो चली आ रही है रीत आओ रल मिल गाइए गीत फेमस सिख दे इस सोने प्लेटफॉर्म ते मैं हां तुहाडी अपनी some women fear the fire, some women simply become it. Today in chapter 12 of the Candid talk show by Famous Sikhs, we are proud to introduce a woman who is known for her audacity and elegance. I am super excited to have Miss Anoop Ahuja Judge with us, who has donned many hats and excellent in all of them. She is an award winning author, former TV anchor, and you may recognize her from the show Escapes with Anoop on Women Now TV at KTSF San Francisco, Auckland. Born and raised in the bustling sprawl of New Delhi, India, she now lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. She started as a litigator, practiced in state and federal courts until she wanted to trade legal briefs for fictional tales. Mind it, legal deals from fictional tales. She has done her bachelor's in English literature from Delhi University and a JD in law from John F. Kennedy University, California. I have already told so much about her. So, with no further delay, let's welcome Miss Anoop Ahuja. Judge.
Thank you, Manpreet. Sat Sri Akal, everyone. Sat Sri Akal to everybody across the globe.
Thank you so much for being with us. I know it's a little late for you. Thank you so much for making time with us. For
Of
us.
course. Thank you, Manpreet. Thank you for this opportunity.
So, ma'am, we are blessed and we are proud that you gave us the time.
No, the pleasure is all mine.
So, ma'am, with no further delay, I would like to go ahead with my first question. So, I want to know about your journey. Since I mentioned that you started as a litigator, but you end up being a writer, and so I know how difficult it is to call yourself as a writer and then publish author loudly when you are in a particular profession that is actually a profession for people because people are not very much they get scared, and writing is a real creative field that it is very difficult to get it into. So we want to know more from you on that.
Sure, Manpreet. The thing is, I think all of us have a writer in us. In my case, it began because my mom was a storyteller. And I think a lot of Indian moms are. They tell stories. My mom used to tell stories about something with a twist, the demon Ravan who couldn't eat, who couldn't eat cake or who was fearful of eating cake, or she would tell about the princess and the pauper and the princess who was being forced to marry the brutal prince but was rescued in time. And so in weaving those stories and in having that imagination, my mom lit that spark in me. And then I did a lot of activities. I used to have a daily journal. My mom used to encourage us writing essays about, for example, attending an out of town family wedding. And
Uh,
so it was just a natural jump from that for me that I did English literature at Hindu College. And
wow.
at that time, I had a weekly column in the newspaper Midday. I don't know if it exists anymore, but I
In
used to
Bombay.
have a okay. I used to have a column in it called University Beat. And at the same time, I was a correspondent for All India Radio. And the stories I would submit to them would be read over the air. And at that time, it didn't mean a lot because always the idea was that you need to have a paying job. You need to be fine. My mom was very, very into a woman earning her own living. And so, this was something that was a very bourgeois activity or something that was encouraged, but, that was not going to make money. And so I ended up at Campus Law Center in Delhi University, which was the only accredited law center in Delhi University at that time after graduating from Hindu College. But writing was my first love, and then what happened? A small miracle happened with me in my second year. because of all these journalistic activities I was doing, I was approached by a publishing house in Delhi called 2020 Media. And they were
Okay.
bringing out 20 books. They were actually two men who had moved from the United States, and they came to India. They formed this publishing house, and they found that there was a dearth of books for college graduates, um, which explained what a profession was. Remember, this was India at in the late 80s, 89, 90. And at that time, a lot of college graduates were rebelling against going into the family business. They wanted to do things for themselves. So, how do you explain to a graduate what advertising is all about, right? Or what the IPS is, which, for viewers who are not familiar, stands for Indian Police Service. And so they asked me, I was still going to law school at that time, Delhi University, and they asked me to write the book on law. All the books on the different professions were called the same. It was like advertising, colon, what it's all about and how to get in. IPS or IAS, colon, what it's all about and how to get in. Mine was called this law, what it's all about and how to get in. It has a foreword by Soli Sarabji, and it is 92 pages, 92 or 93. And
Okay.
I was too young in the legal profession to write a book about what law was. So, what I did was I devised the method. I set up interviews with all the leading lawyers in Delhi. And I compiled their interviews and I had some narrative prose. I typed it out on my typewriter and I gave them all this, like pages and pages. And I was stunned when all those pages became this beautiful book. I mean, it's just it's a very easy to read, a very colloquial, fast read, and it explains what it is. It's a guidebook. It's like what I say, a dummy style book. And I was fascinated by it, and that's what stuck that spark in me. That when I have the time, the luxury, and the liberty, I'm going to write a book, the kind of books I want to read, which has been always fiction, adult fiction. It's women's fiction, book club fiction, suspense, thrillers. Those are the books I'm drawn to. And so that's what my dream was.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's why I called. I would reiterate my words that you have the audacity to take a step like this. And I would reiterate again when I said we are blessed and proud to have you,
Oh,
because
thank
it
you.
is it is our second show with the women, and we are proud that we are interviewing a personality like you who has so much to tell. And a firm step like this, it is very difficult to take, but you have taken that. So that's why you are an inspiration for us.
Oh, thank you so much, Manpreet. Of course, it's the blessings of Vaiguru, first and foremost, my mom looking down. And in the publishing industry, we always talk about this. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise a book. And I've been helped by countless people all along the way. And I couldn't even begin to name them if I wanted to. But, I have had that help and I want to be able to give it back. And in the publishing world, we all believe in that because we
So,
know how tough it is.
so, ma'am, like you mentioned that you were more inclined towards suspense and fiction. That was your genre. So, how was it writing a book on law? And as a student, it was like beginning for you. So, how like what struggles and what challenges you faced at that time?
Well, writing this book on law was not, it wasn't that hard. As I said, I had these interviews and I interspersed with the interviews some narration. And it was really the editing that made the difference, the cover, how they put it together. Writing fiction was much harder, at least for me, because there is something called the craft of fiction. And it
Right.
takes years and years. I mean, I've taken so many courses by now. I've gone to school to acquire additional degrees in a novel boot camp I've attended. I've gone to Berkeley and attended an accreditation in post baccalaureate degree in writing. But what there is the craft of fiction, and that involves many things. That involves plot, it involves memorable characters, there's the writing itself, there's pacing. And so that all has to come in, let's say, I mean, a 90,000 word book. You have to be mindful of all this.
Right.
And so it's been a learning process. I mean, it's been in the publishing industry. We say that it's a long game, and you have to keep at it. You have to, if you take every rejection, and trust me, there is rejection and rejection in this business. You get rejected by agents, and you get rejected by publications that you send out your work to. You get rejected by publishers. But if you can take from that, and it's heart wrenching and it hurts
Correct.
everybody. I've heard Neil Gaiman, who is a best-selling author, say that there's nobody who escapes rejection. So it's just the nature of the beast. But if you can take from it that it is an opportunity to learn, why go back to the drawing board and see what is it that your story lacked? And that's the only way that makes you grow. And again, and also the more practical aspect, you keep abreast of the publishing trends, then absolutely, I'm here to tell you, you will make it. So follow your dreams. You just need one person to believe in your, what we call your writing voice. You just need one person to fall in love with it. That's all it takes. So I am a firm believer in this. You keep at it and you believe in your dreams, and they will happen.
So true. So, ma'am, please tell us more about your award-winning novel, The Ramy Club.
Yes, okay. So the Rummy Club was born out of my desire to write about when I immigrated to the US after I met and married my husband, about the issues that I saw in that were common to immigrant women, but were
Okay.
also common to women in the US. So it's a book about four Indian American women who all knew each other in Delhi, who went to a high school in the Himalayas, fictional, and they knew each other from Delhi, and they are all now in the US. Three of them are based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the fourth one joins them from Queens, New York, and comes to San Francisco Bay Area. And these women, when they were girls, young girls, or going to high school, they used to play the game Rummy, which in the
Oh,
US, there's a version of it called Gin and Rummy. So a card game they used to play. And so they decide when they meet up again, the four of them, that they will start a group and they'll meet weekly in their homes and start playing it. And so their lives is it unfolds in that backdrop of them meeting weekly to play the card game Rummy. And in these four, one of them is married to a multimillionaire, a Silicon Valley billionaire, and she has one son, but an unhappy marriage. And she puts all her energies into her son and him getting into an Ivy League college. Another one finds her husband cheating on her, and so she divorces him, and how a new path in business and love opens up for her. Another one, a Sikh girl, um, and in fact, I have this might interest your viewers and you. I have a section devoted to the '84 riots because I lived through them, and
oh,
so my memories of it form one chapter when Minnie, the young Sikh woman who loses, she becomes a widow and she starts dating a white man. And then the fourth one, who's come from Queens, New York, she is the only one out of her four friends who has not yet acquired the American dream. She's the one, she and her husband are still struggling to find financial stability in the US. And she realizes through the course of the novel that she's envious of her three friends' success. And so, as things go along, you know, the unthinkable happens to one of the kids, Alka's son, and some words are spoken, angry words are spoken, and the four friends, their friendship falls apart because words are exchanged in anger, tensions are high. And so at the end of the book, end with, will the four friends play Rummy again? Will they ever
Oh,
come back together? And of course, the other sub themes, will Minnie marry the white guy, continue to date
hmm.
and marry the white guy she's dating, and how the woman with the cheating husband, if she's going to uh, get successful in her new fledgling business, and is Alka-san going to get saved? So, you know, these are the novel's peaks and ebbs.
Wow, I'm already intrigued and I so want to read this. So I want to know that if it is available on Amazon or if our viewers want to read it, from where we can get it, if you can tell us.
Yes, of course. Thank you. It's definitely it's available on Amazon.com. It's also on Amazon India.
Okay.
And yes, it's on Amazon India. Years ago I checked, but it was on Amazon India, and it's on Google Play Books. It's on iBooks. It's available wherever books are sold on. Oh, it's on BarnesandNoble.com, which is a very big American bookseller. But I do know it's on Amazon India as well.
So guys, it's on my list and I'm expecting that you guys are also intrigued and want to read it ASAP. So it's available, just go and read it.
Thank you, Manpreet.
Ma'am, since you talked about the characters, the four girls, so is it like real inspiration from where the fiction? I know the story is fictional, but somehow the characters that you weave in. So from where you got this inspiration of talking about of writing about these four girls?
So these are all themes, immigrant themes. And later, in fact, after the novel came out, I was approached even by some South women of South American descent, like from Brazil and South America, who talked to me and said they read it and they found it very similar, very relatable. These are all immigrant themes, if you think about the desire for the American to acquire as an immigrant the white picket fence, we call it. That's the American dream, to have your own home. Then the second thing about somebody cheating and a new business opening up, or what we call a helicopter or a tiger mom. That's what Alka is, because she wants her son to go get into an Ivy League college. Again, that's a very common immigrant theme. Immigrants want, having come into this country, that's a measure of success. So these are all things by which societal pressure coming in, wanting to make it. So these are the themes I picked up and I put them in a fictional world. That's
Okay.
all.
And one more question. So why only the Rummy game, not any other game?
Uh, it could it could have been anything. It's just a place card. It's a placeholder because it's used as a backdrop for the women to meet weekly, to enjoy
Okay.
the game, and for their conversations to flow. I mean, it was the game that lent itself. And you know what? Personally, I play Rummy. I've grown
Oh,
up playing, knowing the game Rummy, and I enjoy it, and so it was most convenient. I mean, it could have been the same women could have been meeting at a book club,
okay.
or they
Now,
could have been.
so ma'am, since you don so many hats, blogger, writer, and hosting, so tell us more about you anchored as well sometime back. So tell us more about your show and then blogging. So how do you manage all these things together?
So I used to be an anchor for a TV show called Women Now TV. And
Okay.
yes, I was the host of Escapades with Anoop, as you talked about that. Um, and that had a good run. I really enjoyed doing it. And I'm still very attached to the show. But then we stopped doing that. We didn't have that viewership, and it became a YouTube show. And
Okay.
so, and as a means to promote my novel, I started blogging. I attended the San Francisco Writers Conference when my novel had just been released, and I attended a presentation. At that time, blogging was not, the market had not been saturated by bloggers. It was still very new. This is about 6 years ago. And I heard a presenter talk about, I mean, that as a writer, you have to have a blog because you have to get your name out there.
Right.
And and that's what I started doing, and I have been I'm feel very grateful to my subscribers in the Indian community. I'm very feel very supported by the Indian community. My blog for all your viewers is available at thebrownNeighbor.com.
The
ThebrownNeighbor.com.
background. Okay.
And if you want to learn about my next book, novel number 2 and 3 release, or about any other media engagements, please subscribe to the blog at thebrownNeighbor.com. But it's usually the posts come out twice a month, and I enjoy writing them. It's a practice, it's writing practice. Every time when the time rolls around, I'm like, oh, I need to write something creative. And it's usually nonfiction, and I'm usually scrambling around for what's the latest thing in the media or the press that I could write about. But once it's done, I really enjoy it, and it's just it's a routine that I have.
Okay, that's great. So, ma'am, we want to know more about the writer's block. I believe every writer goes through that, and so you must have some experience to share with us. So, what about writer's block?
Okay,
How do
so
you
that,
overcome that?
Manpreet, that is a very good question because I've heard so many podcasts by writers, by authors, very famous authors, who will talk about that there's no such thing. And then there are others who will say that there's absolutely something called the writer's block. Uh, and this is what my take from it is. I did do feel that I had a writer's block after the Rummy Club because I didn't have an idea. I didn't have the next idea for a novel. I mean, I
Right.
had ideas for small stories, but not a novel. So, however, as you grow in your writing practice and as you grow in your writing career, what you realize is the writer's block can also be a way for a writer to say, well, I just don't have that creativity today. And it doesn't work that way. You may only have slept 2 hours. You may feel like you, I was going to use a word that I'm not going to, but you may feel awful um,
Right.
eh, that day, but you just take your pen to paper, and you might think what you're spewing out is garbage, but you have to do it. You just have to plow through it, and you write. And that day, what you turn out, your writing output might be garbage, but that doesn't mean you stop. You keep writing, and some things on a good day might be salvageable, some things might not be. But you
Right.
cannot, no writer has the luxury, no or writer who calls himself or herself a writer has the luxury of saying, well, today I just don't, the muse is not feeling me, or today I'm just not there and I'll just wait for a, that just doesn't happen.
Okay.
So you just have to push through it, let whatever come. It may not be your best work, But writing is a practice, just like there's a craft to fiction and a craft to writing novels. You just have to sit down, whatever that hours you've reserved for your writing practice, you just have to churn out the writing.
You're right. So you write every day or
I
like
write no I
every
write every day. I write
wow.
on the weekend. Yes, I write from 9 to 1 every day. And then after that, after lunch, I do revisions because this is a secret that you only get to know when you become a part of the writing world. So much of writing is rewriting. You are
Right.
constantly revising your work. Nobody ever sells their first draft, or there's always the rare exception. But usually, I attended a conference at Hedgebrook last year, and Lan Samantha Chang, who is a very famous author, was on her 36th draft of her fourth novel, I think, or something like that. But yes, so it's writing and rewriting and rewriting, and that's what you're doing. And at the agent with whom I signed last month for novel number 3, I am now going through my second set of revisions, and I'm expecting many more. There'll be multiple after this. Because after she sells it to a publisher, there'll be revisions from the editor of the
Right.
publisher. So it's never ending.
I can get that thing that it's a never ending process, but you enjoy that process. This is how we can put it, right?
I love that process because I find personally for me, writing the first draft is the hardest. And it becomes easier once you have the bones of a novel.
Yeah.
And then you're just changing and tweaking and retweaking. And so for me, that's much easier.
Okay. So, ma'am, you talked about publishing. So, how difficult is the publishing process? If you can tell us more about it. Because I believe
So
writing is little more easy, but getting published and getting that name as author, it is a very big thing. So, how difficult is that process?
so that's a very, very good question, Manpreet. That's absolutely right. That there are so many people who are so deserving, such better writers than, in fact, I am. I've read their work, and luck has a lot to do in this business. Publishing trends are another thing, and one just doesn't know what it is. One can't quantify it. But this
Yeah.
is one of the most overcrowded and overcompetitive fields, and nobody knows this until you get into the industry. There is an agent, Cecilia Lyra, CC Lyra. She recently did a podcast on what the shit something nobody tells you about writing or something like that. I'm going to pull it up. And the number one tip she tells authors and aspiring authors that nobody tells you is that she says getting a traditionally published book is harder than applying to Harvard Medical College. And the
Wow.
reason she says this, yeah, and she says this is because she says not everybody applies to Harvard Medical College because they know how difficult it is. While she says everybody and their mother thinks that they can get a book, they can write a book, and they can get a traditionally published deal. And so nobody understands how competitive this industry is. She talks about how agents get 200 to 300 queries every day. Queries is a time honored way of strangers writing to getting an agent. That's how I got my agent. My agent, Jessica Faust of Bookends Literary Agency. I'm on Twitter at thebrownNeighbor.com. Anoop Judge at brownneighbor.com. If you can find me, I have about 4,500 followers there. And there you can see my agent's name and the agency she is with. She gets 400 queries every day. So with that, that with that many queries, for them to go through what is called the slush pile, meaning books, they don't, the first few pages of a novel that you usually attach, agents are reading this. Many of them end up in the slush pile, very few are picked up. But again, I'm living proof that it does work. I did not know Jessica Faust. I had no connections in the literary world, none at all. um, and I mean, I'm very young in my writing career. There, I'm competing against uh, kids who are getting out of college in their 20s, and I'm also competing against writers, journalists who've been in the field for 30 years. So I feel extremely blessed by God and by other people who have helped me in this journey. Um, and again, it helps that right now, um, it's the moment where own voices are being heard, are being acquired. So all those factors built in. But really, this is not something you can ever say how or what one person got successful and another person who might be brilliant in their writing didn't get picked up.
Right. That is why, in the beginning, if people, I just want to clear this one. That is why I said it in the beginning that it is very difficult to say it loud that you're a writer. If you're working as a in a certain profession, it is very difficult to see that shift, and then it is very difficult to come out as a writer because it is a very difficult process from writing, then getting published, and then getting the books, well, everything. It is really difficult, and that's why it is such a difficult process. I don't know how come you change, yeah, how come you changed your career, and it is so good that people supported you. You had your back, so that's wonderful to hear.
Yes, I mean, the people do give back. They've been helped, again, because it's such an overcrowded industry, aspiring authors do help each other. Even when I had to choose between three agents who were all interested in, who made me an offer for novel number three, it's there's another author I know just virtually. We finally met because we are in the same town. But other than that, she gave me her number and I talked to her. So I'm looking forward in my journey to be able to give back as well to other aspiring writers in the same way that I've been helped. And as and another thing I was saying was my novel number two, which is called The Awakening of Meena Rawat, was acquired first. It was acquired early this year in February by Black Rose Writing Press, and its release date is May 27, 2021. We've already gone into the editing of that novel, and again, in that too, it's a press that has mostly white people manning it, but they are looking for stories like this. It's a story about two Indians who grew up in an orphanage and who are Dalits.
Okay.
So I moved away from the Ramy Club and I brought up what I thought to see as a cancer in Indian society. And that novel, known as, titled as The Awakening of Meena Rawat, comes out May 27, 2021, and I'm really excited about it.
I am so excited, and we look forward to that one also. And we are
Thank you.
sure that that project will also, like this one, the Rummy Club, it will be an award-winning, like next step for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manpreet.
All the best, ma'am. Ma'am, you spoke about getting published and how difficult it is, the process is, and everything. But I want to know here that how much content one has to consume to write, because you write every day from 9 to 1, but how much content you need to consume before that?
So the thing is, again, there's no set. I wish there was a set guidepost I could give you as to how ideas come to you. Um, there's a show I enjoy that I was watching, and then I went with a hike with my kids, And although I was talking to them, but for parts of the hike, we were silent because, it was in the hills and it required effort. And from being in nature has always been one of those things that a lot of writers find very powerful. And I suddenly got an idea for an outline I already have for a future novel. And I suddenly realized that I could tweak it this way. I could make the story of a sister this way, a story of a brother this way. I got this idea, but the idea was really from that show. Similarly, I read the New York Times every day. I also have a subscription to India Today. My roots, having lived 23 years of my life in New Delhi, India, my roots still remain very Indian. So I read India Today and I read the New York Times as well every day. And many of those stories strike a chord. This novel about the Dalits, I did a lot of research about it because I had no personal experience about it.
Right.
And in fact, that's why it took so long. But I read a lot of news articles. So inspiration, there's no way that you can actually say where it comes from, but it can come from a book, another book. That's another way. You read a book and you say, but what if you changed the setting? Or if you made the protagonist, a male protagonist, into a female and a female into a male. And everyone's voice, we call it voice in the publishing industry, is extremely unique. So
Yeah.
even though there is no new idea, even Neil Gaiman talks about this, ideas are all the same. There's absolutely no new idea out there because I don't write fantasy, I don't write science fiction. That's a different genre. But
Right.
in the genre I write, which is book club fiction or upmarket fiction, uh, there is no new, but it's how you coalesce different ideas and how your own writing voice is unique to you that makes the novel yours.
Okay. Uh, Ma'am, so moving forward, I could somehow decipher, please correct me if I'm wrong. So I could somehow decipher that you love writing and you wrote about women, and then your show was more of wherein you used to interact with the females. So somehow you have that knack for women empowerment. So what's your take on that?
Well, I've always considered myself a feminist. I was a lawyer in Delhi. I mean, I didn't have a chance to practice, but I was at, I went to Campus Law Center, and then I have a JD from the US. And although I practice law in not in any specific, gender, with any specific gender orientation, I have always been drawn to themes of social justice and, of course, yes, women empowerment and, women's movement. My novels are not only about women, but women are a major theme in my novel. This novel, for instance, The Awakening of Meena Rawat, is a love story in the
Okay.
backdrop of the caste system in India and how it follows them in the US, where both have immigrated. So the female, it is written from the point of view of the main character, the protagonist, who is Meena Rawat, but there is also Ram Nayak, who is the male protagonist, and there's 3 points of view. Ram, who is her lover and was the boy she fell in love with in the Dalit orphan. And then there is the third point of view, which is of Bhavesh, the man she's married to, a Khatri, and the marriage has become abusive. So there's Meena, Ram, and Bhavesh. So it's not necessarily only a female novel, but yes, Meena is the protagonist, and these two men are the supporting voices in the novel.
Ma'am, we
And
need more courageous women like you.
well, as a writer, the thing is, as an author, one thing that you always want to do is never be comfortable in one genre,
Yeah.
because even though you may be most successful in that, because you always want to be being doing something adventurous with your writing spirit, and that's how
Right.
you always stay versatile, is by crossing genres. So at some point, I also want to write a thriller that may not be about a female, or it may be. So I can't rule out. I may only write about two brothers. But yes, of course, I'm drawn to the female story, and how the female voice, especially in our mythology, the Indian
Yeah.
background, with our culture, the Indian culture, because that's what I write about, the Indian American diaspora in the
Right.
21st century, how that folds, sorry, how that plays out.
Super. That's why I'm saying we need more bravery. And I'm happy that I'm
Thank you.
interviewing a female like you, strong female like you. Ma'am, moving forward, we have spoken a lot about your professional journey. So tell us more about your family.
My family.
Yeah.
Okay. So I grew up in a Sikh household. Both my brothers live in the US. Both wear turbans. My nephews and nieces are growing with their hair, full hair. My husband, who used to wear a turban, even after he came to the United States for some time. Um, I've been raised in the Sikh faith. My children follow that. That's the only faith I know. But of course, I embrace all faiths. That is what my Sikh teachings have also taught me. I
Okay.
can go to, I can go to, and I do go to a mosque, and I am very comfortable. Same with a Hindu temple. I can be there, and I can still fix my mind on God, because in our teachings, Vaiguru has taught us God is one. So that's the basis of my spirituality. My I have two kids, and let's see, my son is 27, my daughter is 22, and they've born here. They were born here and raised here, and that's it. It's a small family. I have an extended family. I'm very lucky to be part of a large extended family. My husband has a huge family who immigrated here in the 80s, and he has very few family members living in India, but many of them have congratulated me with a lot of warmth on because of the show. And we follow a lot of our Indian traditions. Families that moved here in the 80s, I find, are very strong in their Indian traditions, because that's a way of keeping your unit together, because you're suddenly flung in a world that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It's one thing being in India and thinking you're very westernized. That's another rude awakening, I think. I mean, I was raised in a convent school, and I went to college at Delhi University. I mean, I considered myself very well read, and yet when you come to settle in a country like the United States, even though they were Indians, and now, of course, there's so many Indians here in California. I never thought that I would say this, but there is a bit of a culture shock, because things are still different. The from very different from what you see in the movies and shows.
Right. Okay. That's great to hear. So, ma'am, let's move forward to our next segment of the show, which is my favorite round, the rapid fire round. So, you have to be very rapid with this one.
I'll try.
Two things no one knows about you.
Mhm.
We reveal some secrets also on the show.
Two things. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, this is pressure. Okay. Um, I don't cook on a daily basis. In fact, I've given up cooking for many years. And my guilty pleasure is watching reality TV shows.
Okay, that's great too. Which one? Any
Uh,
particular?
I used to love watching The Real Housewives, and I
Okay.
used to be very addicted. I've enjoyed watching Selling Sunset on Netflix, which is coming up. I also enjoy many different shows, other cerebral shows as well. I mean, historical dramas. And I, in the same way, I read a lot of very different books across the board: historical fiction, some non-fiction, and of course, fiction. Um, ho- some horror. Yeah.
Okay. Horror as well. Ma'am, your favorite writer, like all-time favorite writer.
Okay, I can't settle on just one. An author I've been very influenced by is Leon Moriarty, and
Okay.
her show Big Little Lies is on HBO. A lot of your viewers might be familiar with that. I also have loved Chitra Divakaruni Banerjee's books. Um, I've read some Chetan Bhagat, not all of it, I'm afraid. Um, and there's a lot of Indian writers. I've read Arundhati Roy, of course. I've read her latest book as well. And I read a ton of other authors as well, both American and Indian.
Oh, okay, that's great. That makes you more Indian settled in US.
Oh,
Ma'am, your pet peeve.
ah, my pet peeve is I'm a little bit of a grammar police woman. So when I
Okay.
get emails that are riddled with mistakes, I just see red because to me it's really easy to run a spelling and grammar check in today's technological world.
Okay. Grammar Nazi, we'll call it.
Right. Okay. That works.
What do you like? The old school way using pen and diary or paper for to write, or you are more of a like laptop and typing person?
That's a great question because I actually am. My first novel came out of a group called um, the Amherst Writers Group. Amherst writing method is a method in the US which believes that taking pen to paper actually has a connection between the brain and the
Okay.
hand. And so I do a lot of my writing by hand. It's
Okay.
double the work because I'll first write in
Yeah.
longhand and then transfer it to the computer. Revisions, I don't do that. But my first outline for novels, my first characters, drawing the characters, writing the background for the characters, which may not even make it to the novel, which is just the backstory
Yeah.
of the characters, it's all done by hand. So I'm a
Okay.
big believer. I'm very old fashioned that way.
What is one of the things you would put on your bucket list, or what is one of the things that is already on your bucket list?
Ah, a bucket list. Let's see. It's a dream as well. So let's see. I would love to see one of my novels. I have the second one coming out, but I have an agent, as I said, for novel number three, and also for four. I would love to see it become a TV show or a movie. So we'll see.
Oh, wow.
Dreaming
We are
big.
sure that will happen. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. From your mouth to God's ear.
I'm sure it will happen someday. And I will be
Let's see.
most like I will be the most exciting person at that time. I'm gonna tell everybody that I interviewed her.
Thank you.
Mom, what is your best childhood memory?
Ah, since we are talking about my writing, it would be when my mom, my used to tuck us in bed my brother and I, and we would ask her to tell us a story, and she would make up something. My mom, if I could have even half the imagination and
Ma'am, you're on mute. No, I can't. It's on mute. It suddenly went on mute. Ma'am, I can't hear you. Ma'am, let me see if I can do it. If I can fix it. So these are some common issues that we face during life. So it's perfectly fine. You just see if I think your earphones are no, ma'am. It says you're on mute. I just discovered I'm good at lip reading. I can I can read what you're saying. Ma'am, you need to disconnect your earphones and then maybe you can unmute yourself.
turn it on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. My son. I needed him.
It's uh I wish you could have asked him to come into the frame so we could have like said hi to him.
Yes, yes, yes. I wish to, but yeah.
So it's sorted. You were telling about the stories that you used to hear from
Yes,
your mom.
thank you. Thank you, Ramy. Thank you for being so patient. Yes, the stories my mom used to make up. My mom used to make up stories on the fly all the time. And yes, my mom passed away last year. That's my biggest regret, that she won't be able to see my traditionally published novel when it releases next year. It's dedicated to her. On the dedication page before you get to the novel takes her name, and it thanks her. It says, to my mom, in the Jeet Kaur Ahuja, who gave me life and the gift of storytelling. So yes, that's a memory I cherish from childhood, because she passed it on to me.
Wow. So I wanted to ask this question, but somehow I could decode. I think your mother is your inspiration. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like one
Yes,
person, right?
yes, yes. My mom always used to talk about writing, and she actually wrote a book which was not published, and hopefully I can get that done. But when she started writing, I think that inspired me as well.
Wonderful. Ma'am, if a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be? Who would play that? Or you would want to play as the protagonist yourself?
No, 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 no. My acting skills are very bad, and I doubt I could do that. And my life is not very interesting. I think my fictional characters are much more interesting. And oh, I mean, I of course want Priyanka Chopra to play one of my characters.
You're just being honest. You're brave enough, so I'm sure that you have so much to tell, and the way you have been taking shifts from career to career, and which is very difficult. I really, I'm 25 and I still want to try something new, but that risk taking thing is not in me. So I'm really inspired, and
Thank
it's really,
you.
so you can't say that it can't happen.
Thank you, Manpreet. But time is on your side and talent too. So, yeah, never say never. Again, hashtag believe in your dreams, hashtag follow your dreams, hashtag it only needs one person to believe in you.
That's you, right?
That's what they say in the publishing world. It only needs one agent, it only needs one publisher to believe in your writing. So,
Okay, Bhav, my last question. Any advice to budding writers?
so that, that's what we just talked about. Don't give up. Yeah, rejection has a way of making a lot of extremely good writers give up because it's so harsh on the soul. It's so
Yeah.
gut wrenching. I mean, I haven't tallied, but I must have sent out queries for The Awakening of Meena Rawat and No Ordinary Thursday, which is novel number 3, to 150 maybe agents. And so and I didn't do that work when the Ramy Club war came out. This is something I learned, that you have to persevere. You can't give up. And you just have to keep trying, but you also have to keep learning the craft. Because as I said earlier, there's a craft to it. There's so much information on the web about writing, about what constitutes the craft of fiction, about uh, making a compelling plot, about pacing, about bringing micro cliffhangers into your novel, or about how to write memorable characters. And we are in such an amazing age because everything is global. We have the globe, we have everything at our fingertips with technology. And so nobody has an excuse not to continue learning, whatever their art might be. So if you keep learning, believing in your dreams, and realizing that every rejection is ultimately an opportunity to to turn things around, to not get defeated, then I'm living proof that the magic does happen.
Surely it does. Indeed, it did.
Thank you. Thanks
Ma'am,
again.
I wanted to wrap up with that question, but now since you have mentioned about the patience you need, and but how to handle that, because you get 150 rejections, it is a big number. So how to motivate yourself and like come back with a bam? How?
Okay, that's a really good question. So anytime I got a rejection, I would be like, okay, I'm going to fire out 2 more queries. I'm going to let's see what other conferences available, an affordable conference that I can go pitch my novel. At conferences, I visited 3 or 4 conferences where I pitched 7 agents each. There was a conference where all 7 of them asked me for pages of The Awakening of Meena Rawat, but then none of them actually acquired it. So that happens. And then in my third conference for No Ordinary Thursday, pitching No Ordinary Thursday, I had an agent make the first offer right the next day. And that brought in the other offers. So, and queries. So I decided that I wouldn't I'd get a no, a rejection from somebody I'd sent out a query to, and I'd be like, okay, I will send out 2 or 3 more today. And that's what I would do. That was my way to beat it back, the rejection monster at the door.
This is a motivation Sunday for me. So
Um,
I really want to write, and I'm like very inspired. I'm gonna give dedicated time so that this happens to me. I'll tell you what I do. I feel like that okay, nothing is coming, so I'll write when there will be something. But now I've got this, and I'm taking this with me that I will give time, dedicated time. Maybe I'll write garbage or whatever, but then later, eventually, I'm gonna get what I want to.
Perfect. That's the way. And keep at it. And
Thank
I'm
you so
here. You can
much,
find me
ma'am.
on social media and ask me any questions you want, Manpreet.
I will. I will. I'm gonna nudge. Sorry, but I will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really pleasure having you, and indeed, we have learned so much from you. You're a true inspiration, and to so many, and especially to all women out there, and all the very, very best for your upcoming projects.
Thank you, Manpreet. Again, thebrownNeighbor.com. That's my blog. You'll find out all my future releases there and my writing. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Sat Sri Akal. थैंक यू सो मच माय ऑडियंस बड़े अनु सत्कार छोटे अनु प्यार फिर मिलांगे अगले हफ्ते ऐसी समय एतवार सत श्री अकाल